Hello, my wonderful friends. It's time once again for a story. This is actually a pretty interesting one because right now I was looking for stuff to read for this channel and I just got this post. This post is literally 47 minutes old at the time of recording. This is from Angelicar97. First ever post. I hope you're as excited as I am. I've never gotten one this fast. Hello, moon mares and celestial stallions. Ooh, fancy. I want to start this off by saying I love Moonhorse's stories and have listened to every one. Oh, well, thank you very much. I finally decided to sit down and type up my own, but I really don't know if this would qualify as a Legbeard story. You can be the judge of that. So without further delay, this is the story of how my ex-best friend of 6 years and her boyfriend kicked me out, almost leaving me homeless. It'll be in 2 to 3 parts. Wow. Oh boy. Here we go. So I'm going to just jump right into this since I'm struggling to get all this down and keep my thoughts straight. I'll call my ex-best friend Mary for this story. Mary and I met when she and her mom and dad started living with my mom and stepfather. I was living with my dad, stepmom, and 4 younger half-siblings at the time. I would visit my mom on the weekends. Now, I've always been a bit of a loner, never had many friends, and when I was 15, I had little to no self-confidence. Not much has changed, honestly. Oh, don't say that. I'm sure you're wonderful. So when a funny and confident girl, 5 years older than me, wanted to get to know me and be friends, I jumped at the offer. She's about an inch shorter than me, 5'2", but twice my weight. Even though she's overweight, she's very confident and loved girly things like makeup and clothes. We had the best time together and got really close. We'd have sleepovers in her room, watch movies, drink, smoke, and talk for hours. Even when she and her family moved out of my mom's place, we stayed best friends. We knew everything about each other and did everything together. She would come to pick me up at my dad's house, I would visit my mom, and then we'd spend the rest of the weekend together. For about a year, I didn't see anything odd or weird about her. The first thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was when I found out she was in an internet relationship with a guy that lived across the country. I don't have any problems with that. The weird part was that he seemed really into her, but she didn't seem to return all of his feelings. I mean, she liked him. They'd talk on the phone for hours. I could tell she cared about him. The thing that really bothered me was that every time she got into trouble, she would call him for help. Usually that help was financial. She'd brag that she never had to pay her own tickets, car repairs, or any other unexpected expenses. She'd also still date, and if another guy asked who he was, she'd say that he was just her cousin. Classy. I thought this was pretty weird, but we were friends, so I ignored it like the good follower I was, and I never said anything. Around the 2-year mark is when I started to notice her inflated sense of self. She thought pretty highly of herself. Not that she shouldn't be confident, but she had a very hard time with authority. She hated being told what to do by anyone. This made it really hard for her to keep a job. If she thought something was too demanding, or she didn't get her way, she would just quit the job. But because she still lived with her mom and didn't really have many expenses, she was able to save money and go for weeks and months without a job. She hated working. So with the help of her parents and her long-distance boyfriend, she would just quit jobs sometimes within a month. If I remember correctly, the whole 6 years we knew each other, the longest she held the same job was about 3 months. Oh boy. She also didn't have a problem with telling people just how she felt, which was both admirable and annoying. Anytime I confided in her or complained about my home life, she would just say, "Oh, well, why don't you just tell your stepmom to go fuck herself?" Or, "If you don't like your job, just quit." Which, of course, I couldn't do because of how timid I was. My home life was a very complicated situation, and I couldn't just quit my job because I was trying to save money to move, because of said complications. But again, she had her good qualities that made me ignore the bad, and we stayed friends. About 2 years later, the 4-year mark, when I finally did save enough money and graduated high school, I packed up my 2 dogs, 3 black trash bags full of stuff, one of which was filled only with stuffed animals, and moved. At this point, Mary was living with her boyfriend of 2 years, Kevin. She had broken things off with her long-distance BF a few months into her and Kevin's relationship. I don't want to get into Kevin too much in this story because I want to focus on Mary, but believe me when I say that, oh, he's a piece of work. Seeing how she acted in a relationship and living with her really opened my eyes to her real personality. She was a Class A spoiled diva. She would give hour-long silent treatments and manipulate Kevin in any way that she could to get what she wanted. Although I think I'll hold off on that until the next story. Oh boy, cliffhanger, I'm excited already. She was still a good friend and never treated me poorly, except for the occasional holier-than-thou comment. The worst part for me was when I noticed her hygiene habits. Both her and Kevin would only shower and brush their teeth about once a week. Oh my god, that's... No. Whew, you guys know how Moonhorse feels about that kind of thing. They sometimes went even longer than that. Oh, that's so gross. Her teeth had a thick yellow film over them. Her hair was always greasy, and she had a faint but undisguisable odor. I think I threw up a little in my mouth. And good lord, the house. It was Kevin's father's house, and he still lived there, but he worked nights, so we very rarely saw him. The house was a wreck. Mary and Kevin almost never cleaned, and there were dishes, clothes, and just filth everywhere. Oh, fuck. Kevin was a heavy smoker and would put out his cigarettes on the dishes and then leave them wherever they were for weeks. In their bedroom and laundry room, they had mountains of clothes piled up. Instead of doing laundry, she would just buy new stuff. To look for anything in the whole house was like finding a needle in a haystack, except the hay was moldy dishes, putrid underwear, and left your hands sticky.
Oh my God!
The walls were covered in greasy black smears from dirty hands, and the windows hadn't been cleaned in years. The carpets were covered in animal poop and pee that wasn't cleaned up for days sometimes. Oh my fucking god. The couches were the worst part. They were stained with, honestly, who knows. I didn't ask because I feared the answer. I mean, I sat on those couches. If anyone is asking why I didn't clean up any of the mess, I did somewhat, but after a while I thought, this isn't my responsibility, and I'm not the maid. I wasn't going to clean up their mess for them. Plus, I didn't know where to put a lot of their junk. I mean, they both had an outrageous amount of stuff in a medium-sized house with 4 people and 6 animals. Eventually, Kevin's dad got sick of the filth and said since we're all adults, we had to clean up. Mary drew up a chore wheel, and the house became bearable. But they never really trained their dogs. They each had a dog. Mary's was a small 10 pounds min pin. My mom has one of those. And Kevin's was a 50-pound pit bull. Like I said, they would do their business all over the living room floor, and the carpet was unsavable. When I brought up that they should take their dogs out more and clean up after them right away, they would say that my dogs contributed to the mess too. I know my dogs would have the occasional accident, not like theirs did though. So when I would leave for work, I would keep my dogs in the room, so no one could blame them. If I got home before they did, I would let their dogs outside and play with them. If I gave my dogs treats, they would get some as well. If my dogs got bathed, they would as well. My dogs were not treated the same way by them. When I got home, they'd still be in the room. This made me upset because I felt unappreciated by them for everything I did. Not just with the dogs, but, everything. After a while, I just stopped trying, and I feel like that was the beginning of the end. I lived with them for about a year, but I feel this is a good stopping point, and I can continue in a different post. Sorry if this is too long or too short, I don't really know how this works. Also sorry it's not the most exciting story, but I have much more to tell. I have way better, more specific stories about Kevin and his neckbeard ways, and I'll eventually get to the part about the fallout. I just really felt I had to get Mary out of the way to get to the other stories. If you'd like to hear them, I'll be happy to send it. Personally, I would love to hear them. I honestly don't get to talk about this much, even though it is very much a neckbeard thing, which is the nest. The neckbeard nest is all kinds of horrible. You can look up 1,000,001 terrible, terrible, terrible images of neckbeard nests online. And yeah, there's a whole subreddit dedicated to this as well. Now, the thing to really address with a lot of that is a lot of neckbeardness and things like that. A lot of it does have to do with mental illness, and a lot of times when you talk about someone with mental illness, narcissism or like something like that, it can come down to that. Like, it sounds like your ex-friend there, Mary, just didn't care. She thought that like it didn't matter if things were a mess because, you know, she was just above all that, and that somebody else should absolutely be doing these things for her, and that she did not need to be doing them. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of, like, people, like, I've seen some neckbeards that it's just like they don't clean, they don't do any of these things, and it's... a lot of it is, like, depression. I've seen pictures when they talk about, like, rooms that, like, incels and stuff have, where it's like, you know, oh, it's this horrible, horrible mess, and it's like, yeah, it's because these people aren't just shitposting angry people on the internet. I mean, a lot of incels are, but not all. Some of them are actually severely depressed by the fact that they don't think they're going to find anybody, and this is the result of that. They don't feel like anything matters, so they're not going to take care of themselves or anything around them. But that pushing through and trying to make things happen really does actually help. It sounds really cheesy and kind of like, you know, oh, you know, self-help bullshit. But no, actually working to kind of clean and organize and make things a little bit better really does help. It really makes you feel a lot better and makes you feel like, you know, things are actually getting done, and kind of helps with your mental state. And then there's, you know, people who don't really want to change, and they don't want to get out of the negative mental state that they're in right now. So I am really happy that that Angela Carr, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, that rhymed and I didn't mean it to. I really hope that you're out of a situation like that, and you don't have to deal with people like that, and you're in a better place now. It sounds like you are, but I really hope you are. If you're not, you know, 100% on that, but I'm really hoping that you are, and that you don't have to deal with stuff like that, because it's hard dealing with incredibly negative people who are going through something like that, and they just don't want anything to change. They become set in this certain way, and they refuse to have any kind of change. So, you know, sometimes you just have to let go and move on with yourself. You can't save everybody, and that's a really hard lesson to learn. And it hurts, because you do want to save everybody. But with that, that is the end of this episode. So thank you all for watching. I love you all so very, very much, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you would like, you can like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love you if you did. And if you'd like to keep the lights on in this place, you can do that by donating to Patreon or buying something from the merch store. Much like PBS, this show is sponsored by viewers like you. I love you all so very, very much, and I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye!